Hello, it is 6 a.m. at the United Nations in New York. It's 1 p.m. in Sana'a. I'm Monita Rajpal.
And I'm Zain Verjee. You're watching CNN, the world's news leader, and this is World One, live from London.
Dialogue, not declarations. Israel's prime minister is urging the Palestinians to return to the negotiating table for the first peace talks in just over a year. It comes as the Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas prepares to go before the United Nations on Friday to bid for international recognition of a Palestinian state. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called the Palestinian move time-wasting and says it'll destabilize the region even more. But the Palestinians say it's their only way forward after talks with Israel repeatedly broke down. A yes vote at the UN General Assembly could see the Palestinians handed the status of permanent observer, a step that would give them the right to pursue legal action against Israel. Well, Israel's call for direct talks could be seen as an attempt to forestall the Palestinian moves at the UN. Let's bring in CNN's Fionnuala Sweeney, who joins us now live from CNN Jerusalem. Fionnuala, what can we read into Netanyahu's invitation for direct talks with the Palestinians?
Well, he has always offered direct talks. The problem is the Palestinians haven't gone for it because they have thought that they wouldn't achieve anything. But there certainly is a momentum now in New York to try and achieve some kind of face-to-face meetings. Now, Mahmoud Abbas is reported as saying that he would be happy to meet anybody from the Israeli government while in New York.
Sweeney at CNN Jerusalem, thank you so much. An explosion ripped through the center of Ankara, the capital of Turkey, just about 2 hours ago. The blast has caused some casualties and damaged surrounding vehicles. That's according to local television. CNN's Rima Maktabi is in Istanbul and brings us more details. And Rima, again, there seems to be some back and forth. We don't exactly know what caused this explosion.
And Monita, even officials on the ground still don't know. The latest accounts came from the governor of Ankara. He said there are no deaths. 15 people have been
watching
injured.
World One live
Dragged
from
down
London.
by debt, Italians are waking up to a country whose economic future has turned a shade darker. That's the verdict of the rating agency Standard & Poor's at any rate. It's revised its opinion on Italy's ability to repay its debts, lowering the rating on Italian government bonds by 1 notch, and says it could cut it further. S&P says Italy will have difficulty getting its debts under control because of weak economic growth and political uncertainty. We want to know how damaging it is for the country's leaders. CNN's senior international correspondent Matthew Chance joins us now from Rome. Matthew, before we get to what this means for the country's leaders, I guess how did S&P come to this conclusion?
Well, they cited 2 reasons, Monita, for downgrading Italy's sovereign credit rating. The first was economic weakness. They downgraded the amount by which they anticipate Italy's economy is going to grow. They downgraded it to just 0.7% in the next 12 months. And the second reason they gave is because of the political uncertainty here. There's a very increasingly fragile coalition that's holding together.
As Libya looks to firm up its future, Amnesty International says refugees are languishing on its borders and Europe isn't doing enough to help. In a new report, Amnesty says the response by EU countries to the North African refugee crisis has been, quote, abysmal. Claudia Cordon is Senior Director at Amnesty International. He joins us now here in our studio. Claudia, thank you very much for being with us. Abysmal, why?
Well, we have 5,000 refugees stranded on both sides of the border in Tunisia and Egypt, 1,000 in Egypt and nearly 3,800 in Tunisia.
When reports like this have been issued, have you seen some sort of, I guess, a real call for action by countries that you have indeed pointed out and signaled out? Have you seen some sort of change in action, or does this actually hinder what they might and might not do?
I think it helps. And we're also talking about countries that have a public opinion, that have people that are sensitive. The stakes in Libya and throughout North Africa.
Strong typhoon is bearing down on Japan, and the heavy rain is already battering the western region. Mari Ramos is at the World Weather Center with details on that. Mari.
And Monita, this is a big storm, and remember that they just are barely just getting over another strong typhoon that was affecting that area a couple of weeks ago.
Sure. You're watching World One live from London, the road to recognition.
Palestinians call for statehood, but can Israel intervene? We're going to be live in Washington next for some analysis.
We continue to believe and are pressing the point that The only way to a two-state solution, which is what we support and want to see happen, is through negotiations.
Papers around the world are saying about this. From the United Arab Emirates, an opinion piece in Gulf News with the headline, U.S. desperate to thwart Palestinian statehood bid. It says if the U.S. vetoes the bid, Israel's diplomatic isolation will be highlighted, along with Washington's slavish posture and its unsuitability to be any kind of Middle East broker, let alone an honest one. The Wall Street Journal has the headline, The Palestinian Statehood Gambit. The opinion piece goes on to say what Palestinians seek out of a UN vote isn't an affirmation of their right to a state, but rather another tool in their perpetual campaign to harass, delegitimize, and ultimately destroy Israel. And finally, here in the UK, the Independent's headline is Why the Middle East Will Never Be the Same Again. That comment piece says, never again can the United States and Israel snap their fingers and expect the Arabs to click their heels. The U.S. has lost its purchase on the Middle East. Rugby World Cup has served up another exciting game in New Zealand today, one in which both teams made history, Don Riddell.
Thanks very much. That's right, Monita. Italy's rugby players have had a good day at the World Cup, thumping Russia.
Jam-packed indeed, Don. Thank you very much.
You're watching World One live from London.
This is music, Zain. Probably not music to many people's ears is the American economy. U.S. President Barack Obama has made it clear he's ready for a fight over deficit reduction. A special congressional committee has 3 months to make its recommendations, but the president on Monday outlined his plan, cutting government deficits by $3 trillion over the next decade by slashing spending, I should say, and getting the wealthiest Americans to pay more tax.
I will not support any plan that puts all the burden for closing our deficit on ordinary Americans.
Well, just as that promises to draw fresh opposition from the president's critics, an explosive new book has just come out about his early days in office. It portrays Mr. Obama as an amateur in dealing with the economy. Brian Todd takes us inside the pages of the controversial tell-all.
For a best-selling author, serious brushback from the White House over a new book which depicts infighting and indecision in the Obama administration's early days. CNN, Washington.
I'm Zain Verjee.
Monita Rajpal, thank you for joining us. We'll update you on the news headlines at the top of the hour.